My window won't roll up or down, so we gotta fix it. Let's take out the cover to reveal those screws. Got them out, but these go straight into plastic, so when we screw them back in, we're gonna have to be careful to not strip them. Here, let's take this out to reveal the screw. It is also direct to plastic, but a bit shorter. And we gotta take off this cover here to reveal another screw. And this little guy was a 7mm. Now this trim piece. And then this just kind of, you just gotta find a way to grab it and pull it off. Mine was a little extra tight, so I just used a flathead as leverage. And as you see, it just kind of snaps in those slots. Everything out, all we gotta do is just kind of pull up and take this thing off. And then you kind of take the door up and off since it kind of sits on there like this. This was a little tricky to get out. This was from the door handle. Had to use needle nose pliers to pull this ball out first. And then this tab. Let's see, so the motor's right here. Unplugged it, but I'm gonna have to push up this window to get the motor out. So besides the power cable, the regulator, that motor on it has that other cable going to the whole assembly. And even though we were able to get the glass back on and pull it back up and it was intact, it hadn't shattered when it fell down, it just makes more sense to replace the assembly since it's only 80 bucks. So I had my buddy help me pull up the window. It was kind of a two-man thing, and then tape it. Like, I held it while he taped it for me. So just so you know, if you gotta do this, you could do it solo, but it's quite annoying. So on to the next part. Actually cut the tape while holding the bottom of the window and put something to wedge it under there. Like, I found this box of gloves to kind of keep it propped up so I can reach the screws at the bottom of the window. Unplug the power cable for the motor. Now let's cut this cable. It's just easier. These 3 bolts. And now let's loosen these 3. Get the rest of this assembly out. And note to self, these are 10mm bolts in case the kit doesn't come with any new ones. I carefully put the window down and propped it up with this little box so I could reach the 2 bolts where the window attaches to the whole assembly. And yeah, we got these 2 10mm bolts out of here. So you see the window is detached. And then the bracket there is in the bottom that it was screwed onto. Now let's kind of, now that I've backed up these screws a bit for the motor mount, the regulator. All right, so that's out of there. Of course, the window's up again. Let's just kind of take this out, this whole assembly here. There we go. The old regulator assembly, and we got the new one. They only had 1 in stock at my local O'Reilly's, so I lucked out not having to wait on an order. Wondering why I'm wearing gloves. You see the slide here is pre-greased and you don't want to mess with that. Keeping in mind the screw holes, we've got the 3 here for the motor and then 1 at the top, 2 at the bottom. So it is one-sided. Keep that in mind when you just kind of shove it back in. I need 2 hands, so I'm gonna put the camera down. To mention before you put it in, since these have these slots, it's easier to go ahead and just start putting the bolts in and then just make sure they're backed out a bit so they can fit in those slots. It's much easier to line things up instead of having 0 screws and then having to hold it in place like that. Put it up and put it down in those slots, the top and on this bottom right one, and we're all good. Only have to tighten these in and then of course put the last bolt in. Now that we have all the bolts tightened, we got to reattach the window, but before we do that, I want to make sure that it's going to work. So I brought the door here. I'm going to reattach this power cable, which is just a lever. Reconnect the motor to the motor cable. Got to fish that out of here. It's this connector. It's mostly just going backwards. And one big thing is, you see down here, before I finish putting it together, I'm going to test the switch one last time. Make sure it works, make sure it goes down. And I'll take the tape off, of course, and up. And then check that auto works. Looks like we're good to go. Rubber gasket on my headlight started peeling off. So I'm gonna take this brush and scrape off all the residue from the glue that was there prior. Just make sure it's dry, and then use this black rubber sealant to re-glue and seal the headlights.